Welcome back to my series of James Bond reviews. So far, we've covered the first 4 James Bond movies, and now we're talking about You Only Live Twice. I have a playlist of my James Bond reviews linked down in the description, so you can check that out if you want to. Also, spoiler warning for You Only Live Twice. So, You Only Live Twice is a pretty interesting James Bond movie. Most people seem to like it, but other people think Thunderball is the last good Connery James Bond movie. But I don't think that. I think that You Only Live Twice is a really good movie, and it is definite improvement over From Russia with Love and Thunderball. As usual, this movie starts out with some uninteresting stuff. The first 15 minutes in here are uninteresting and a little weird, and they don't seem that important to the plot, but it's just the first 15 minutes instead of the first 30 minutes like most of the James Bond movies. This movie is also really fast-paced. After the 15-minute mark, this movie is just entertaining and fast-paced all the way through, and there's not a single dull scene in here. Let's talk about the story in here. It's really good. It's interesting and also digestible, unlike most of the James Bond movies where it's a little hard to follow. And there's so much that happens in this movie that it makes it feel like it's longer than it actually is, but in the good way. The action in here is pretty good. It's mostly fun and digestible, but there are a couple of fight scenes in this movie that are a bit lackluster and uninteresting, and there's some that have a really interesting setup, but it doesn't feel earned in the end. And some are poorly edited compared to the first 3 James Bond movies. This one has better editing than Thunderball, but it's still not that great. But overall, the fight scenes in here are pretty fun to watch, and probably the best and most entertaining part of this film. The landscapes are pretty cool in here. The movie being set in Japan really makes the movie a lot more interesting, and you get to see sumo wrestlers and ninjas, and it's all pretty interesting to see James Bond interact with them. And also the volcano layer is super fun and interesting. Let's talk about the characters in here. James Bond is pretty good in this movie, but he's not as good as he was in Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Goldfinger, but he's still a pretty good lead in this movie. The good part about this movie is that there's not a single bad or pointless women in here. Each woman has an interesting backstory or purpose to the film, and they're so well thought out, and they take like a couple scenes to really flesh out these women that you actually feel some more emotion when some of them die. And this movie also has some interesting villains like Blofeld that, even though they have been parodied a lot, they're still pretty interesting and serviceable to the plot. In the end, You Only Live Twice is a fun and entertaining James Bond film, and I highly recommend it. And I'm gonna give You Only Live Twice a 7 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to be back with my reviews of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings and Hotel Transylvania near the end of the week, so stay tuned for those. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!